Yeah, I think we should leave the ECHR. I don't think it's a real rights body at all in any meaningful sense. And I don't like the idea of human rights full stop. And I say that as someone who believes very strongly in political rights and freedom. But the problem with human rights is that they often restrict our freedom. So if you look at the European Court's definition of freedom of speech, for example, the Convention says we all have freedom of speech, except in the following circumstances where it may be curtailed and smashed and you could be arrested. So it gives us freedom of speech, but then takes it away in the same breath. And that really sums up human rights law. And I think it's about time we had a very serious public discussion about whether we want to be in this court and whether we want to have the Human Rights Act.
There would be those who said that, given when it was established and the sort of things happening back in that particular period of history, it was necessary to have a body above the national level to potentially protect people if a malign leader took control. Is it not the fact that looking at the way Britain is performing now and really sort of leading from the front when it comes to Ukraine, that we might be better off trying to change the thing for better if it is not fit for purpose and outdated?
I think we have a very proud tradition in this country of fighting for freedom, particularly press freedom, political freedom, the right to vote. There is a long, centuries-long history of us fighting for those rights. I don't think we need these new so-called human rights to bolster what we've already fought for ourselves. And in fact, as I was saying, human rights sometimes get in the way of the freedoms that we fought for ourselves. So there's a real problem there. But I think the idea of having anything that is above the national level or above democracy, that always worries me because it means that it is out of our reach. It means there's nothing we can do about it. So if the European Court of Human Rights were suddenly to decree that men who believe they are women have the right to go into any situation they want to or any room that they want to, then what could we do about that? That shouldn't be above the national level because we would want to have a discussion. We would want to decide that for ourselves. So I think bringing everything back to the democratic sphere, including the question of rights and freedom, is always a good idea.
I mean, I agree with a lot of what you say there, but other people might say we might not need them. If we have a British Bill of Rights, it could actually go further than the ECHR and put in place protections that currently are under threat, protections for victims, for example. But they might say that we might not need them, but citizens in other countries may well need that kind of protection. And Britain leaving would set a dangerous precedent for countries that could end up going down a particularly nasty route.
But I think the problem there is that even in European countries where there is obviously repression and a lack of freedom, and we know those countries exist, the problem even in those situations when activists appeal to the European Court of Human Rights is that they're constantly being drawn away from having that discussion with their own people, setting up movements, getting masses of people behind them in order to overthrow the oppressive structures or the oppressive laws. So the court has a warping effect even when it comes to people who are demanding their rights, because it constantly draws them to this supranational level rather than encouraging a democratic struggle for freedom. So across the board, I think it has a problematic impact on democracy, first off, as we've seen this week in the UK, and even on the question of freedom. And the sooner we have a discussion and potentially a referendum on this institution, then I think we can really throw open all aspects of this conversation.